And welcome back to Coffee Break, everyone. I'm your host, Faith Jacobs, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Adva Shaviv. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get started and dive into my questions for you, would you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you are currently writing, without, of course, giving away too much, because there have to be surprises.
Of course, thanks, Faith. First, it's great to be here, and it's a great honor, and I'm glad to finally talk to you in person. And I'm a late diagnosed ADHDer. I currently write cozy fantasy inspired by ADHD, and also run online communities for readers with ADHD.
Incredible. So I guess with that we'll dive into the question portion. You mentioned in your submission to the show that you couldn't help but feeling that explicit ADHD representation was lacking in books. And for years I've felt the same thing. I've had friends with ADHD and I've always thought to myself, where are all the characters? And I can think of a couple of examples of some, not a lot, but some, from openly autistic authors, of course, such as Shows Who You Are, has an autistic, autistic protagonist, but ADHD friend, in a boy. There's, I think her name is Bonnie from A Kind of Spark, in Kitty, and of course, a younger generation would know Percy Jackson has a lot of ADHD and dyslexia representation, but I still feel like that's more fantasy. And even Disney kind of erased that a little bit in the latest TV show. They kind of skip over the ADHD and the dyslexia in Percy, which floored me. But I digress that. So with you, what are you hoping to do to open better conversation for more open ADHD rep through your book and your community?
First, Percy Jackson is still on my TBR, so I don't know. I really look forward to read it. And I haven't watched the series, so I don't know how it goes. But I do know that what I feel is most missing is not just a person or a character with ADHD. First, most of them do not even explicitly have ADHD. You just have to recognize it. And if you do have it, then you'll probably recognize it in yourself. Like I do in Anne of Green Gables, for instance. She seems to be very ADHD. Or Jo March from Little Women. But then it was not yet recognized. People didn't know what it was. So that's another thing. And even in these days, we still have characters that are only referenced or coded as having ADHD. And I think that actual representation with the name is very, very crucial, because it, just like we need to be diagnosed and have a name for ourselves, it also means a lot to see it on the pages. Excuse me. And the other thing is that it's not just that, it's nice to see ourselves, but what I'm trying to do is get the readers into our unique sort of minds, so that readers who do have ADHD, who are like us, will see themselves on the pages through our own eyes. I do have several characters with ADHD to try and broaden their representation, because, of course, each of us is different, just like everyone else. But also people without it, people who are neurotypicals or just other neurodivergents, can sort of get a glimpse inside our minds. What is going on there? Why are we so weird? How do we see the things we see? How do we feel the things we feel? And that is also connected to the fantasy that I write. So I can't give up too much. Also, it will be a bit too long, but it is a world of ADHD. A lot of it is based on ADHD in terms of metaphor, but also world building. So it's actually living. It's like an immersive experience of ADHD.
And I think that'll be. It sounds different than anything I've seen before. Even, I know with Percy Jackson that the author himself said, "Oh, my son was diagnosed with ADHD," and I have heard from so many peers of mine, "Oh, I felt like my disability wasn't something wrong with me when I read Percy Jackson," which is a wonderful feeling, but it still makes me wonder. Percy Jackson is not specifically about disability, though. And we don't really have stories that typically have a leading character with ADHD just going about even their daily life, like Anne, like Joe, doing either extraordinary or simply ordinary everyday things like surviving school. Whereas I can think of so many autistic characters who just go about their day-to-day lives in various TV shows, and they're openly autistic. It always seems like the ADHD is, it seems so mean to say this, like an afterthought, and which sort of leads into question two, which is I know so many colleagues or peers of mine who are either autistic or ADHD or just solely have ADHD. And this leads a little bit into community and your community of readership, that they said that growing up for them, reading was hard. When growing up, reading was hard for them, and that audiobooks are so much easier. Would you say the same thing? I mean, a few years back we would have said books on tape, which just shows how old I am. But would you say that statement is accurate to the majority of those on the spectrum of ADHD in regards to finding it easier to listen rather than to read their books?
For me personally, actually, it's the opposite because I have audio. What is the official name? Difficulties.
Do you have auditory processing?
Yeah, auditory processing problems. So if I only listen, it's more difficult to. I just forget to listen. So I have tried audiobooks, but I just forget to listen. After a minute or two, I realize I don't know where my brain has went, but it's not in the book. But in my communities, definitely, I think there's a majority of audiobooks listeners, or at least they also listen to audiobooks. And yes, as far as I know, it's quite common with people with ADHD. And at any rate, I think it's just the more diversity we can have in books, as in anything else, it's just for the better. And there are always unexpected communities that can benefit from this, like reading. It becomes easier for people with sight problems, not necessarily blind, but it's different. Even if I could read could listen to audiobooks, I wouldn't need my reading glasses. That would make it easier for me. So it always benefits the general population.
Have you ever found that, like, even if you were to listen and do something else, would you be able to, like, maybe concentrate more? Like if you're doing tasks around the house and you've got it like playing in the background. No,
doesn't work for me. It doesn't.
fun.
But even if I'm speaking to someone, even if it's on the phone or then if it gets too long, I just find myself forgetting where I am, and it gets pretty embarrassing.
That's all right. We all have different needs and different levels of what helps us or what's best for us. Let's see though. Given that we are discussing ADHD, and I believe it's best for us to define the term for those who may not fully understand it, because, I mean, to be fair, we still have people who think ADHD is caused by food you eat, or, medicine you take, or something else akin to something quite controversial going on right now. We know that's not the truth. We just know it. So we have so to speak, so much misinformation still, as equally as much as any neurodivergency. But how would you define ADHD based on your personal experiences with it in your life?
Yeah. First, I also changed the name ADHD itself in my book. I mean, I do refer to ADHD, but then in the fantastic world, it's called added, because it's as if we have more of everything, the good and the bad. But I think the way I experience it most is the inconsistency. Whenever I wake up in the morning, I don't know who's going to wake up. Is it going to be the super energetic me, or is it going to be the super, I don't know where I put my brain today me, or anything in between? And it's both difficult, and it also causes quite a anxiety, I would say. Yeah. actual anxiety because, I never know if I can count on myself what's going to come up. Is it going to be a day of struggle? Is it going to be a great day? If I'm trying to plan for something, how long do I need? Do I need a minute, 5 minutes, or 2 days? Because I couldn't find 5 minutes where my brain was focused enough to do the thing. So, it's problematic. But at the same time, especially as the years go on, I do get better at understanding not exactly my average, because my average doesn't exist. It's like I don't have an average. Every day is different, but there is a way to appreciate more or less. I would say I triple my initial appreciation of how long it's going to take me, and that's more or less okay. Because also my appreciations tend to be very, very optimistic.
I'm kind of the same way. I feel like like I said to you in your email, I was like, I didn't know if I was going to be camera ready because I'm one of those people too that like if I wake up at the dawn of 5 a.m. and I have time to do my routine and all the things I need to do to get ready, sure, I might be camera ready. Or if I have a bad night and I wake up and go, oh crud, it's then I gotta start rushing, and so I learned this in college myself. If I didn't pack my backpack the night before, I would forget things. And so I understand you there so much. It's like, am I going to need 2 hours or am I going to need 5 days to get ready for something that I have to do in like a week? It's just, I feel like it's one of those neurodivergent things that you go, yeah, that makes sense. And you just go with it. And the other people around you might not be able to go with it, but you have to do what allows you best to function, and that's not always easy.
That's exactly it.
Coming back to your communities you've cultivated on Facebook and Discord, I find it unique and interesting that you've chosen the route that you have in allowing your book club readers to choose and read at their own paces. You mentioned talking about commonalities of themes over choosing like a universal book, which is different than what I've been in a few book clubs before, mainly in college, and it was, obviously same book, same, so it's very unique and untypical, and I like that. I think we need to be a little more untypical these days. But here's my question in all this. Oh yes, how do you feel that utilizing these untypical ideas has been helpful to your community of readers rather than a hindrance?
Yes, absolutely. I've been wanting to be a member of a book club for decades, but I have never dared, because what if I don't like the book that they've chosen for me, or what if I just don't meet the deadlines, or what if I read too quickly or too slowly? Usually for me it's too slowly. Unfortunately, I'm not a fast reader. So it's too many constraints, and it doesn't feel as much fun. It feels like homework or work that I need to do. And I really wanted to make something for my own community. I'm very proud of this idea that I came up with eventually, because I was just thinking, why do we need to speak about a specific book if we each read a different book? And we do share experiences as readers, and especially as readers with ADHD. So I just settled for asking a question, or playing a game, or raising a theme to discuss every week. And everyone can respond in relation to the book that they're reading, and if they're not reading, they can still respond, because they can relate to the last book they read, or just a book they were thinking about. So everyone can participate. I call it the Reading with ADHD challenge, but the challenge is just to be there. Anyone can pass the challenge, and it just makes it much more inclusive and stress-free, and it's much more fun.
Yeah, that to me would be so, like I wish when I had been in college that that the world of disability was where it is now. I feel like it's come so far since that time when I was there, because I remember just struggling to keep up with, ironically, We Read Before I Fall, It's an incredible sort of like take on like the Groundhog Day style of storytelling. Like you're stuck in like a time loop of, you know, the day keeps repeating over and over again. But for young adults. And I remember struggling to keep up with the rest of the people who in the club, like who were reading that as well, and I had just not like it. That to me seems so much more inclusive and much more considerate of different levels of readership, of, you know. So that's really cool that you do that. Let's see. Ah, here it is. Circling back around to sort of like the lack of representation we were talking about for those with ADHD. Why do you think most authors are afraid to explore this neurotype properly, particularly those with ADHD themselves who are writers? Why are they afraid to explore the neurotype? Like, I could see why maybe a neurotypical might not, because, again, the view is that ADHDers and autistics don't desire friendship, love, connection. A lot of times, you know, it's clinical, and again, that's far from the truth. I even saw an article that, like, still to this day floors me. It was like, oh, those who have friends with ADHD will eventually just drift because of the object permanence, and the tendency to forget or get too busy or forget to communicate, you know. And so I sit there and I think, why do you think that this is a subject that is not tackled in a humanizing way, but as I said before, more clinical? And what can be done to break the cycle of hesitancy to tackle those of ADHD beyond the stereotypes, beyond the clinical point of view?
So you've tackled several issues, so I'll try to remember them all.
It's all
First
right.
about, yeah, if not, then you remind me. First about other authors, I can't speak, of course, for anyone else, but I do suspect that one of the reasons, at least, that we don't see so many explicit ADHD characters, or even neurodivergent in general, is that many authors and probably publication houses believe that this is not really sellable. I'm just guessing. I may be wrong, but unfortunately, I think it's rather correct. And I believe it's the opposite, because just like I am really interested in reading about people experiencing things I don't know and never will know, of different places, different genders, different identities, people going through things that I never will and never will be able to or never want to, or maybe in the case of neurodivergence, it could be interesting, but I just can't. And I just believe most other people are just like me, and they're interested and they're curious. And the way to, how did you put it, go beyond the stereotypes and the clinical treatment.
The clinical, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really easy. What I do is just treat them as people, you know, a full human being. So I have several characters with ADHD, but each is different. And while their ADHD is very central, both to the plot, to the story, to the world, to everything, the book is about ADHD, but it's also a fantasy. And it's also about these specific people, Tom and Alice and George and their mother, Emma. It's about them. Each of them is a whole person, and they're different. They're very different from each other because we are different from each other. And so I just think it's so easy. Don't think about it as, I need to have a character with ADHD, so they need to, I don't know, forget things, or they probably will, but that is not the thing that is interesting. What's interesting is that Tom loves music and he's standing on his own, and Alice is very creative and very imaginative, and George is always on the move and he's easily distracted, and Emma can't really get a life together, but she still tries and she never gives up. So each is a person of their own, and yet the ADHD is very, very much in there. So that's my answer. If I forgot something, they'll let me know.
No, you tackled it all. I mean, you're making me think about all my peers and my friends over the years who have also had ADHD. I know one of them who has ADHD, and she's so bouncy and bright and fun, and anytime I'm around her, every time we get to talk, it might be weeks or months, but we come back to speaking, and it's always a great time. And then I know a guy who is ADHD as well, and it you know, like the way they all present is so different, but they're all so, and they all have their own unique lives and interests, and it was the same thing for me when I began trying to write, you know, autistic characters. I was like, these autistic characters that you got on the screen are not the boys and girls that I knew growing up. It's like, who did you meet? Because you clearly didn't meet these people, you know? It's like you clearly didn't see them. You saw a robot. Or you saw somebody who was like, oh, shiny. You know, like, that's the stereotype, is, oh, shiny. And it's not, you know, it's more complicated than that.
Exactly. It's when you do see someone who has ADHD on the on the page or in the heard words anywhere in a book, it's usually that they are the child, the boy. Usually, it's a boy. It's never a girl or a woman. Heaven forbid, you know. And they're, you know, they have difficulties in class and they're jumping off the walls or whatever. But it's not about that. It's about what they feel from the inside, what makes them do that. And this is what I think is the interesting thing to read about. So this is what I write about. It's why we look the way we look, because from the inside it's so much more complicated. And it's really easy to understand once you give a glimpse to someone else. So we just don't look like weirdos when you understand why we do the things we do.
Yeah. We need more of the Anne archetypes. We need more of the Jo Marches. We need the characters that, like, for some reason they stand out to you, and you don't know why, but you just know that they didn't fit within their time period, and it's so incredible that authors like Montgomery wrote Anne, and that Alcott wrote Jo, but, like, it's okay to write more, you know, new authors, modern authors, it's okay. We could use them. And on the point of writing, let's talk about your writing for a bit. When did you know you wanted to first be an author, and how difficult was it, especially dealing with being neurodivergent in the sense of having the diagnosis of ADHD, to jump feet first into this path? And on the second part to that question is, how have the challenges of ADHD affected your creative path and the process to perhaps inspire your drive to write as well?
So I've been writing since I've known how to write, so very early. But the idea of actually pursuing, actually publishing, writing a book and ending and actually publishing it, while it was sort of a dream since probably forever, I took it seriously in 2019, which is 7 years ago. And I'm still not finished, almost finished, but I'm still not quite there. Mostly because I also homeschooled my kids, so it's only a bit less than 2 years that we're done now, and I'm actually free to actually just write. But it's mostly because of ADHD and self-doubts, time organization, and all of that. But I did know that I was going to finish, because I did manage to finish a PhD years before. And that was before I was diagnosed, which was much more difficult because I had the same difficulties and the same time management unskills that I have now, but I didn't know why, so I was blaming myself. So the good thing after having my diagnosis, I think it's very crucial to say it. So even though you didn't ask it, I'm going to go ahead and say diagnosis saves lives. Maybe yeah, I think it literally saves lives, because knowing who you are and that the things you can't control, you just can't control. It's not your fault. And there are good things, which I'm now getting to. So getting to understand all of that and me and how I can work and how I cannot work, it's necessary to have a diagnosis to do that, because otherwise it's just like all of the regular tips and advice just don't work, because they cannot work, because my brain is different. It doesn't work that way. So I cannot build a routine not in the regular sense, but I can build several options for a routine so that I don't necessarily sit down at, I don't know, 9 o'clock every day and write, because sometimes I just can't, but I can work on something else, which is also crucial. Or I can, if I didn't work in the morning, I can work at night. I can learn myself and learn what works and what doesn't work. And knowing that I have actually in the past did something of this scale, actually larger, but at least at least this scale, and I made it. This is in fact the thing that most affected me. So success breeds success, and that is why it's so important never to tell kids, never to make them feel like failures, because they will make this come true. They will continue failing. You were asking
Oh, no, it's
some
all
things I
right.
did not reply.
It's okay. No,
I think so.
honestly, I agree with you a lot there. You know, it's like before I knew that I was autistic and I had dyscalculia, I used to sit there and think to myself, I'm so stupid, I can't get these numbers right, because I see numbers backwards. It's basically dyslexia for mathematics. And I write them backwards, even though I would do the problem right. So getting the diagnosis of dyscalculia and autism, as much as it led to some bullying and opposition and unkindness on the part of a lot of people towards me, it led me to look at myself and go, I'm okay as I am, and I know what's part of my identity that makes me this way, that makes me blunt or forward or honest or a lot of things that people don't like. You know, it just is, and the beautiful thing is, you know, Bella Ramsey just got diagnosed as autistic, and I think they use she pronouns as well. But Bella Ramsey said, you know, it allows me to give myself grace, knowing, you know, who I am. And I agree with that. You know, it allows us to give ourselves grace and say, okay, this is part of who we are and what we deal with, and that's okay. You know, it does help knowing who you are. But I think you tackled everything in the question.
I think I remembered maybe that you
Yes.
asked, yeah, if it's only a hindrance or
Yes,
also
yeah,
something that can help.
was it a little bit, how did you, like, has it impacted or perhaps maybe inspired your drive to write? I
Yeah,
think that's the
so
second part.
both. I would say both. There was a time when I just heard about this idea of treating ADHD as a superpower, and it was very appealing, and it sort of worked for probably a month or two. It's not that, because it's both. It's both, and it's the most helpful approach I have found, at least for myself, is to seeing both edges. It's sometimes it is a hindrance. It's some people say it's a disability. Some say for them it's not. I think it is, and it is a superpower. It's both of them mangled and just tangled, and it changes several times an hour, not just in days or weeks. So while I cannot tame my brain to sit and write whenever I want to, even though I really want to, and I really want to have finished this book a year ago, but I still haven't, and it would be great, but I can't, and it's okay. I accept that because it's part of who I am. And at the same time, I don't think I could ever have written anything similar if I did not have ADHD. Because, well, naturally, because I know about ADHD, so that's the obvious part. But what I mean is the imagination, the way I connect ideas that are utterly unconnected to anyone else, the the way that ideas, I always see it like sort of bubbles going around, and then they they meet each other and a new idea is born. And my brain is different, and that also has advantages, and it has a different perspective and a different view, and it's just something else. And early readers have said that they see it's something else because it's a different brain. So we should embrace what we have, which is different, and share it with others, rather than just, oh no, it should be this way. No, it should be our way, and it's great. It's great to have as many ways as possible. So yes, I think it's both a hindrance and help. It can work both ways.
And I relate entirely to everything that you're saying because my brain works in very similar ways. It's part of the reason why I'm trying to champion neurodiversity in history, because I feel like, there were so many people in history who faced so many different neurodivergencies, and to me, I mean that just shapes, a younger generation, to look at the lens of history through the eyes of disability too. I think will change so many perspectives because then it gives us pause to say, well, this has always been here. It's not something new. Maybe mention Mozart, the man
Yeah.
was 80. I don't care what you say. um, but we sort of kind of did answer question 7 as well about the positives and negatives of being, unintentionally we answered it about being a neurodiverse artist. I sort of asked if you see it as an aid in your creative path or is it an uphill climb, and you've answered that really well in our last question too. So maybe let's move on to question 8. For what do you hope though that your readers in your community and wider audience will take away from the characters you've mentioned that you're creating with the book you hope to debut? How do you hope to encourage them with the representation you're making based on your personal experiences with ADHD?
I really hope they learn first to love themselves better, to forgive themselves better, to accept themselves better. And I actually say it explicitly in the book, to change their environment to fit them rather than themselves to fit their environment, because we are so taught from a very young age that this is how things are and we should fit in whatever it takes, and it's so wrong. And we can see that it's mostly true in school, I think, but also in adult life. But then when we look at the richness and vastness and diversity of adult life, you can do anything, you can be anything, and people can succeed and be happy in so many ways. Why should we try to be what we're not? And this book is actually about that. So that's really what I hope.
And that's incredible, and that's needed because, so many times throughout our lives, I think as neurodivergent individuals, we are told, like, why can't you just be normal? Why can't you just do this like this person or that person or that? And it just, makes us feel inherently bad about ourselves because it's like, well, why did I do this? Why did I do that? You start to beat yourself up. And what we need in our representation is not that our, how do I put this right, the way I would like to. We're always going to have flaws, and we're always going to have bad days and bad moments, but the things that lead to maybe moments that we can't help doesn't inherently mean that we don't deserve to belong. And everyone deserves to belong, no matter where they are, what they did, or how, or where they come from. They just do. They deserve to have a voice, and deserve to have their own unique voices empowered. That's what matters most.
Absolutely. I love how you put it.
Thank you. Let's see. But have you faced opposition while pursuing your book? Has there been any feedback that was less than kind? I know that so many neurodivergent individuals, including myself, tend to be bullied when the subject matter of their work is neurodiversity, and I've had pushback on the Mozart series because of this. Nobody wanted what I was creating, simply because it was done poorly in the past. Have you experienced that with your book as well?
So I'm very lucky and happy to say that no, I'm very sorry that you have. But I think actually people usually seem appreciative and very interested by the idea. Oh, wow, cozy fantasy inspired by ADHD. Well, what does it mean? What is it like? Tell us more. But I think it's because I did the opposite. I don't have a book with ADHD. I don't write a book with ADHD. I write a book. I built the whole book around it. So this is what I do. It's not like I could just take it out, because just like I can't take it out of myself, there will be nothing left. And I think maybe this takes people by surprise. They just don't expect it. It could be, oh, a book with a character with ADHD. Okay, that's one thing. No, they said this is inspired by, it's built around ADHD. And I suppose I shouted at the rooftops, this is the thing. So I suppose they just, if they don't like it, they just take a step back. And they have nothing else to say. Well, what else? What are you going to say? Do it differently? Like, do what? There's nothing left.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things, and I know so many other neurodivergent authors who have just received pushback, and it's, I mean, it's their lived experience. I mean, it's like, no matter what book I write, there are always going to be characters who, like, it's not that I write books about characters with autism. It's like I write books around a character who happens to be autistic, but even then, I think when you try to tackle the established order, you're always going to receive some kind of pushback from a negative naysayer. It's sad, but sometimes it's a given.
I haven't seen the reaction to the book is not published yet, so so far only early readers or people who come out either know me or come up at something that I published on social media know it, and then they usually only respond if they want to know more, so it's too early to ask.
That's true. I hope when it debuts that it is a kind debut, I mean, even if there are naysayers, I hope the majority of the response is kind, because that's most definitely what you deserve.
Thank you.
Of course. My next question is, who would be your biggest champions throughout this writing journey, and how have they pushed you to keep growing and going as an author and a community leader, even when the going gets tough or the days to write feel impossible?
So again, I'm very, very lucky here, because my greatest supporters are my family members and also some friends. My mom is 92 years old, and she has never read a fantasy book in her life, and mine was the first, and she loved it, so it's amazing. And my partner and my 3 adult kids are very supportive. I have my own corner where I write, and they respect my times, and also some friends, and of course, and the wider family, and of course the members of my communities are like a second family. It means so much to meet other people who are similar, both in things we never chose, like being ADHD, but also in loving reading, and also in being kind, because it's also a community of being kind to each other. So it's really, really lovely.
That's good. That's good. It's wonderful to know that such a community exists, because so many times, especially online, neurodivergent communities can so easily become toxic and unkind, and I've seen too many of those to name, and was once again bullied even out of some of them, and it's not encouraging when you're a neurodivergent author looking for neurodivergent spaces. So I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, so that's it. It also will have changed the rules several times to make sure that everything I want from the community is understood, and it's also about taking out anyone who just doesn't accept, because I need to protect the ones inside who do accept.
That's good. That's good that you're on top of things. So my next question kind of switches gears just a little bit. Some people would say that reading is at an all-time critical point in this world we live in. Some people blame TikTok. There are book bans out the wazoo. You've got people writing shallow stories and tainting genres with technology that maybe they shouldn't be. And sometimes people just aren't buying books. In all of this, do you have concerns at all, about your book debut as an upcoming author with everything kind of going on?
Not really, because I think, well, first, complaints about how people read and what people read are not new. They have been around for centuries. Also, complaints about people reading at all since the beginning of printing. So, I agree with you that the landscape of reading and of readers has changed and is changing. I think it's far slower than we perceive it to be because always, the edge cases are pumped at us through the media. And I do think that on average, the average person's life has not really changed that much, but readers will always be here. And while I believe there will be several reading worlds, so some people will read AI books, I assume, but some will never read it, and we will just exist, simultaneously.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That's been a really big hot button topic issue, and I was like wondering, well, you're a new and upcoming author, and like how does that landscape kind of like either worry you or concern you or challenge like what's what's going
I
on
wouldn't like to
basically.
see, wouldn't really not like to see books written by AI because I don't see the point. I mean, art is created to show humanity, to understand humanity. So, what does AI have to do with it? But
Yeah.
if people create it and other people want to read it, it's not my problem. I do believe
That's
that people like you and me and all the other readers will remain here, and we're not going anywhere, and we're going to continue to read human books.
Yep. Oh yeah, no, I agree. I even every time I publish a book, I have to say they will ask me, they're like, "Oh, did you use AI?" And I'm like, "Never in a million years." Um, no, I do everything myself. I ain't gonna stoop that low. Um, But on the upside, even with the current state of the book industry and the publishing industry, do you hope to publish the story traditionally or self-publishing? What's your plan for the book amidst everything happening, and how do you plan to celebrate once it's out there?
So I plan to self-publish, and again, I blame ADHD on that. First, it's my baby. I want to have full
Yep.
control.
Yes. I feel the
But
same.
don't tell me what to change. I'll ask my readers what to change
Editor, I'll
for
be
me.
my own editor.
Exactly. So it's already been developmentally edited, and I've had one round of beta readers, and I'm finishing now, and hopefully it's going to be by the end of the year. I keep looking at the calendar as if I don't know what date we are. Okay.
It is the 19th, I think. Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
just need some
First where
visual
my computer
validation.
says.
Yeah. So I hope within a few months it's going to be fully finished after also copy editing, etc. But yes, of course, I do the process like a traditional editor, traditional publishing house, in the sense that I edit it as properly, and I'm going to hire a cover designer. I did not yet, but I'll get there. But in terms of, it's not just actually the me being control freak. Probably there is a part of it there, but I think there's also a sort of fear, because I have heard of such things where we've talked about this before. Publishing houses might see it and say, "Can you
Yeah.
tone down the neurodivergence just a little bit?"
Yep.
No, I cannot. I may raise it a little bit, but I'm not.
Raise a
I'm
little
not
bit
toning
more.
it down. Yeah, and in fact, I think it's well, it makes sense to me. I'm not exactly making this up because I have heard things like that, but it's based on how I perceive it. Because nobody ever told me that, because I didn't even approach an agent or a publisher, so I just imagined that might happen. But I do think it's a mistake, because once again, it's to people like us, it's going to be great reading about people like us. It's something we need occasionally, at least. And for people who are neurotypical or just anyone else, it's going to be amazing, I think, just like it is for me to read about someone who lived in the 17th century. It's a new world. It's like getting to know a whole new universe. And because it's so immersive, I think it's a plus. So I think
And
also in terms of marketing, I feel good about it. I'm not afraid.
and good. And I would say that you're not your thoughts and your feelings on like the rejection of the publication and publishing industry is not wrong, because I had the same thoughts. I sat there with my little idea for a neurodivergent take on Mozart, and I thought to myself, I can just see it happening. I can just see it happening, me going to some agent, whether it's HarperCollins or, Random Penguin, like Random House. Random Penguin. I always see the penguin symbol when I think of Random House Inc. But Random House Inc. going to one of the big name publishing companies and sitting there and having them go, yeah, we don't want this, because, what do you think you are, Amadeus? No, I think I'm better than it. Oh, but, no, I'm kidding, I'm joking. But I sit there and I go, I can just see the conversation happening and just nobody wanting this. And so that's part of my reason for wanting to be my own editor, my own marketing team, my own kind of one-woman army, everything. And I feel the same as you. It's like I'm gonna turn up the autism and the ADHD and the cocktail of neurodivergencies in this man because nobody else will. And any other books out there that I write that are either autistic or neurodiverse coded or openly neurodiverse, because I just think like I almost feel like we have to create our own industry, of neurodiverse led books, because the publishing industry has dropped so many. And I can't imagine the thousands of neurodivergent books that we don't have because somebody out there said, yeah, who wants this?
It's so
And
true.
that's just my point of view on it, too. Um, oh yes, we are down to our last two questions. So, let's make it a fun one, because I always love throwing in fun questions. What is a dream genre of yours to write? And second part, if the book soars and takes off, would you want it adapted for film or television? Like, what is the dream? Sky's the limit, no matter the money, the cost. What's the dream for your book's future?
So, first, my dream genre is in fact what I'm writing. It was spiraling in my mind long before I started putting words on the page, and it's just moving better and better since then. It's exactly as I have imagined it. It's like capturing my own mind in words, but making it even more fantastic than it really is. And in terms of dreaming, it reminds me of Han Solo when Luke Skywalker said something about what is it? It's
Oh,
going to be more than you imagine.
well,
And Han
yeah,
Solo says,
more than I
"Yeah, well, like
imagine.
quite a bit. Yeah, exactly. So I too
I
can
can
imagine
imagine
quite a
quite
bit.
a bit.
Yeah. So
I'm a
I feel that
big
way. I
Star
have
Wars
ADHD
fan.
imagination after all. So I can be very happy with the film adaptation or a TV series, audiobook, of course, anything, translations. It can all be
Uh,
fun. But I do have to say that I think the greatest reward is to have a reader say, I felt seen. And I am so happy to say that it has already happened because I have had early readers, and it's like I don't know, it's like fireworks breaking up inside my own mind and heart. It's amazing. So all of the other dreams, I would love them. Yes, I wouldn't say no to anything. But that's the great feeling, the greatest feeling.
I agree so much. I haven't had too many readers come to me and say that about Faithfully Yours Mozart, except for the two. They are my leading actors for the show, and they came to me we turned it into an audio drama, kind of an audio book. And they came to me after they read it and said, we both felt so seen by your take on this relationship, because, it just, for the first time, somebody was writing, autistic adults as autistic adults, and not in a way that was infantilizing or dehumanizing or cruel or unkind. And it was so wonderful to have that encouragement. So I understand that feeling. It's like more than the numbers. Numbers and making sales on books are great, but more than that, I would just love for somebody to pick up, our books and go, finally somebody got me,
It's true.
because
It's
we've
true.
been. Long time
I mean, I lost the audio.
Oh,
Oh, there it's back. Okay.
sorry, I might have turned away from my mic a little bit.
Oh, okay. So now
Sorry,
it's
it
back.
was probably my fault. It's okay. I think we are down to our final question. Um, what advice might you give to a much younger you before you jumped into this path of writing and pursuing community? And how much you encourage if you could sit down with a younger version of yourself and share all that you have accomplished and all that you're doing and everything that you will achieve as you go along to that version of yourself from so many years ago.
So first, I would tell myself that I have ADHD and explain to myself what this means, because I do remember, in fact, even as a child, going around in the world with everyone saying, "Oh, you're so talented, but you're so weird." They wouldn't say that, but they would say, "Why would you do that?" or stuff like that. And it always felt, I can't even remember why exactly, but I always felt like there was something wrong. There was something wrong, and nobody got it. Nobody saw it except for me. So they all thought I was okay, but I knew there was something wrong, and it had no name, and it was really horrible as a young girl. So whenever it would hit, I would feel sort of inside of a tornado, like, what is going on, and how is it, and why doesn't no one else see it? So first, I would tell myself, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you, but you are different, and that's a whole other thing. And that's who you are. That's who you're going to stay. So just learn yourself. And also, a very important thing is not to lose sight of the good things. I usually, for instance, I often get up in the evening from my computer and I think, but I didn't do anything today. And then I start thinking, but what did I do? I've been sitting here for several hours. What have I been doing? And yes, I've been doing a ton. Just not the one single thing I meant to do, but I did so much. And just getting myself used to thinking about it and to understanding it and to seeing it, even noting down, I would have if I had the patience to, but even noting down what I'm doing so that when I get up, it's, oh, okay, yeah, so I forgot about that, but I did this and this and this and this and this and then so many other things that are going to help me later on. So it's just a habit of seeing myself differently. I didn't do what I should have or the way I should have, but I did what I could, the way I could, and sometimes it's better. So I think it's important to appreciate it.
Entirely, and I agree. It's good to give, I've been saying, like I said earlier, it's good to give ourselves grace with the things that we can do, even if we don't necessarily reach what we wanted to do, that day or the next day. Sometimes if we do too much, it will lead to burnout. And that is one thing that, you have to be really careful of, especially when you're a neurodivergent creator, is doing too much when you don't think you're doing enough, because then you will burn yourself out, and then you won't be able to do all the things that you want to do. So you have to have those rest days, you know, or those days where you do things that maybe you didn't intend to, but you know.
It's
So
very crucial to remember.
it is, it is. And with that, we've come to the end of our questions. And I want to thank you for joining me for my podcast. It was a joy and a pleasure, and you were so bright and wonderful, and I'm so glad that I got to bring you onto my show and to talk with you and to hear your journey. Now, is there anywhere that listeners can follow you and your journey on social media, on websites? Of course, I'll plug them below, but let's plug them here.
Yes, first, I'm so happy that I got to know you. Also, we've talked on other places, and you're such an amazing person. I feel so lucky to have known you, and thank you for inviting me. And I would really like to see readers joining our communities. Also, I have a short story, sort of a prequel to my book, and it's all on my website, kesem.com. That's KESSEM.com. And everyone's really warmly invited.
Absolutely, and I will share, of course, your social media. I'll plug your Instagram, your website. I'll plug the Facebook communities. Of course, if you'd like to follow me, I do have an Instagram for CoffeeBreak, although I need to log into it and maybe make some changes and fixes and update that page. But you can mainly follow me at Faith Jacobs Official. Official is spelled with one I on my Instagram because I messed up. But you can follow me there. Of course, I will plug all the relevant links for me, my Goodreads. Do you have Goodreads?
Yeah.
Adva? Okay,
Yeah.
so I will follow you there, and I'll plug your Goodreads. Of course, people can leave reviews, because Amazon's weird. If you have an Amazon KDP account, leaving reviews is strange. But I will plug all the relevant links for everyone so that we can properly follow Adva. Once again, thank you so much for this, and I will see you all on the flip side. Take care. And once it stops,